What is it about Lovecraft? I would say three things, and I need to remember those three things now. So you would know. Well, I mean, I have my cyberpunk version of the Thundercats in the books. The whole story is finished. It's written. That's it. So if you start one, you will get to the end because it's there. Right now, that's the main challenge. Making really the books enjoyable, readable easily without taking away the real substance. All these fears in issues, they resonate within this genre. And I think that's one of the main interests as well. Can an AI, which was just silicon based, at inception, could it actually become human? But then maybe people will like the Mad Max type character or the detective or the crazy cyberdog with his big crazy eyes.
Welcome to Spotlight on Indie SFF author interviews. Today we're talking with Phil Stitelmann. I hope I said that right.
All good.
He's bilingual in French and English and began writing at an early age, mostly in the horror and science fiction genres. He holds a master's in English literature and started out as an English teacher and a translator, then worked in the video game industry before specializing in software development, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. He's passionate about pop culture and new technologies. His main body of work consists of a saga of four main books and several novellas, all set in the same original cyberpunk universe called Digital Gods and Fallen Angels. In addition, he told me that his work in tech as a project manager, software development, AI, and cybersecurity has provided him a lot of insight and depth on the universe he's created. When it comes to corporate workplaces, he also knows what he's talking about. This has come together in his aim for a kind of hard science cyberpunk writing, not just magical hacking where hackers look cool. He also enjoys role-playing games. He composes a little, which he told me comes in handy with his writing since there's a lot of music involved in his books. When his rock star character sings a song in the book, you'll actually be able to listen to it on his platforms. Those links will be included in the description below this video. Be sure to check those out for more immersive experiences. You can find his book, Dissociation Delirium, on Spotlight on Indie SFF. That link is also included in the description. That is quite a background and experience, Phil. And on top of everything, he's in Europe. And with me being in the central US, it took a bit of flexibility to make this work. And now here we are. Welcome, Phil.
Here we are. Thank you so much for having me.
To kick this off, I'd like to go back to kind of the beginning of the introduction there, is moving from English literature to IT in those different areas that you have is a
Well,
big change. And it seems to work out well
it
for you.
is. It's the story of my life, actually. I never know where I'm going to end up. It was really a practical question. I got into English studies thinking that I would just end up an English teacher. And halfway down the road, I realized that I wasn't sure that's exactly what I wanted. So I took a huge risk and ditched everything and set out to do something else. So it started as translation because, as part of my studies, I was not too bad at translation. And then it turned into translation project management within the video games industry, then within the medical device industry, and then this got me somehow into tech. And I've been tumbling down this rabbit hole ever since. So ultimately, the English studies are what make me bilingual, even though I still have some kind of a French accent here and there. But yeah, now my main curriculum is in tech. And
So
because I love to
go
learn,
ahead.
I just keep myself updated on current tech. So these days it's AI and cybersec.
So have you done any like specific training in the technology? I know my husband has a computer science degree, so he is a programmer, but how deep have you gone into that kind of stuff?
I've always gravitated around the development per se, but ultimately I stuck to project management. But in order to know what I was talking about, I underwent several trainings and certifications, mainly around product lifecycle within the software development. So it would be Agile Scrum. And later on, because I was working on a specific product within a medtech startup that required knowledge about AI, I undertook a certification in AI, which was the predecessor of the large language models that we use today, namely ChatGPT. So it was the natural language processing machine learning models at the time. So I have a certification in AI, meaning that I know how to program and train these specific kinds of models. And I also have the project management expertise in how to assemble and manage an actual training data set so as to avoid bias within the model itself when we are going to train it afterwards. So that would be mostly the kind of trainings I took, and a lot of cybersec here and there, even though I didn't have the time to get any certifications just yet. But again, I do that as part of as a project manager, meaning that I know how to, for example, undergo a surface of attack analysis, and I make sure that the providers I work with basically do the work they're supposed to be doing in terms of security, and I validate the documentation afterwards before we go to market.
Wow, you've got that whole organizational management thing going on there, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for the last 20 years now. So I've been around a bit. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and you were telling me before we recorded too that you used to be a teacher.
I
How long
started
did
out
you
as
do
a
that?
Not long, not long.
Oh,
I did a bit of English, yeah, teaching English back before the 2000s, and I was also a French teacher in Scotland as part of my studies between 1998 and 2000. I can't even remember exactly anymore, but
so how
um,
did you get pulled away from the teaching then? What drew you away, or did you just need a change? Was it?
it was my mother who is a retired English teacher, and I
Oh,
realized watching her that I didn't want to spend 40 years of my life teaching, at least
okay.
not this way and not in those circumstances. So it was really a question of knowing what I didn't want more than what I wanted. And so, yeah, that's why I moved away from that. But I kept everything else apart from the teaching, which was the translation, the language itself,
Mhm.
literature, poetry, civilization, etc., etc.
You said that you didn't want to be a teacher like your mother for all of that, but did the technology have a special appeal to you? Is that what kind of got
It
you into
was
that? Because it could have been anything that got you away from teaching.
I mean, it's kind of fun. I missed the train. By that, I missed the opportunity to make that a job early on. But when I was almost at the end of my primary set of studies, I joined the computer club. And this is back in 1990. 5 or 6 or something like that. At the time, we had like Windows 3.1 or something. I can't even
Hmm.
remember. And we would still use DOS commands to actually launch programs or games. And I discovered computing, creating levels for the video game Doom. That's how it's
Oh,
all
really?
started for me. And it just
Okay.
tells you how old I am. And I'm really talking about the very first Doom, not the very latest one, the very first one. And so it started like this. And then I started designing websites with the very first HTML protocol at the time. And it could have carried on. And I just stopped. Then I went into these English studies, and then I started doing something else. And I never got around to yeah, basically to carry on in computing per se. So I've always been on the fringe, on the edges, but I'm fine with it, especially today when you are being told that after 20 years of experience as a programmer, you will be replaced by Copilot or whatever, an AI that will just produce code that will be riddled with bugs, but you won't have a job anymore. So, I
Actually,
mean,
yeah, based on my husband and other people that I know who do programming here, they said that AI still has to be highly edited by a human because it's, like you said, it throws in all those bugs because it grabs everything. Yeah, I
it
don't.
does. The problem is people who do the work know the limitations of the tech. The people who make the hiring and budgeting decisions don't. So we are at a special point right now where the tech is not dry yet. The paint isn't dry. The tech is riddled with issues, problems that have real huge life consequences
Hmm.
in the workplace, like agentic AI who will make the decision on their own to just delete the database in production
I
because
saw that.
yeah, and and because they were told, look, there's a problem, fix the problem. No database, no problem.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, it still has a long ways to
um,
go.
yeah, but the problem is we are at this point here, but people are already losing their jobs because
Oh,
of it. So the consequences are real short-term ones right now. And so that's where we are. And that's the part that it's the part that really scares me, and it's also part of the chronology that I put together between 2023 and 2086 at the beginning of the books, where I explain how things will go down the drain because of this rise of AI until the point where we reach the singularity and everything that will happen afterwards. I just hope I'm wrong. I just hope I'm wrong, but that's the way I see things going. So yeah. Anyway, Hmm.
so you touched on your book there too, and how that comes into that part of
AI is
this.
at the center of the books. Maybe I'm not going to go too deep into the details right now, but it's a current fear. It's a current societal issue, and it's really at the heart of what I'm trying to get through with Digital Gods. So
In the information you had said that you had a love of horror. Is that kind of what inspired this with the AI in writing this series?
So, in terms of horror, let's start there. I'm a huge Lovecraft fan, which is the reason why when you mentioned the role-playing games, one of my all-time favorites is The Call of Cthulhu, which is really the Cthulhu mythos written by Lovecraft. And I've been loving Lovecraft since I was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 or something. So, and it's this particular type of horror that I'm a fan of. And because DGFA is really a love letter to pop culture, nerd culture, literature, and genre, these kinds of genre, the horror elements in my books are actually Lovecraftian in nature. So the AIs here, and I'm trying not to spoil too much, but the AIs will really, really read Lovecraftian. Those who know will
Oh boy.
recognize that straight away, basically.
So the
Yeah.
AI likes Lovecraftian? Is that what?
Exactly. The AIs
Oh boy.
there are very Lovecraftian in nature, which
Oh, in
is,
nature. Okay.
which is basically a play on reality, different kinds of realities, because we have virtual environments, we have other kinds of environments. I don't want to spoil it, but it's very also Lacanian in nature, layers upon layers of reality, the real. I mean, these are all just my studies. I mean, but yeah, everything is in there. My whole life is in those books. But yeah, so the horror element is very Lovecraftian.
I've seen a lot of authors on X mention that they like Lovecraft. Seems like everybody who has a background in a certain, it's not just horror fans. It seems like it's just something almost classic about Lovecraft that so many
Oh yeah.
men, especially, I don't see it so much as women, but men especially seem to be drawn to that. Is there some,
Uh,
I guess I've
it's
never read it either, so tell me a little bit about, what is it that appeals so much?
It's an interesting take, actually. I had never thought about Lovecraft in terms of men or women. Maybe the horror genre is more male oriented. I'm not sure. Honestly, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I
Uh,
just notice it. It seems to be men that talk about it more than women. Women tend to be more towards the romance, me excluded. I don't really do
and
that,
my
but
wife, and my wife either, yeah. So, what is it about Lovecraft? It's I would say three things, and I need to remember those three things now. But first of all, the horror element is very abstract. It is linked to the fact that when you are confronted to the supernatural, godlike entities of the mythos, your mind cannot handle these extra layers of reality. So, for example, if you go into a haunted house in a Lovecraft novel, the angles are wrong. So that's what I mean about abstraction. You do not understand what you're looking at, and it drives you mad. Angles are wrong, your senses betray you, and your brain cannot process the input. Which leads me to the second point, which is madness. You will have lots of novels where the main character, which is usually not meant to survive the story, will first lose his or her mind before they actually die, maybe a kind of horrible way or whatever. So that's the second point. The third point would be actually the point of entry for Lovecraft. What's the name of the novel? The short story is called The Color Fallen from Space. I remember the title in French, but it's The Color Fallen from Space. If you want to really get into Lovecraft, it's a short story, but it's amazing. It's a color that falls from space into a well somewhere outside of a village in, I think it's in northern England. It's not northern England, sorry, in the US, and in the Boston area, if I remember correctly. I haven't read Lovecraft in a while, but things are going to happen because of the influence of this color. And that's why I'm trying to convey the idea of abstraction. How can you make a color actually look and sound terrifying? That was really, really his thing. And yeah, he's become a cult classic. Mm.
exactly. So, what of that have you incorporated in your writing since you're such a fan of Lovecraft?
It has to do with certain types of virtual environments. It's difficult to get too much into details without spoiling the upcoming books because
Yeah,
they haven't been published yet anyway. But think of it this way: you have the real world, you have the metaverse, which is we know what a metaverse is, where the everyone in my world just jacks in to escape reality. And then you have an underlying third reality layer, which I really can't talk too much about. But
yeah.
this other level of reality is the one that is very Lovecraftian in nature. It's very adverse to the human mind. Humans are not meant to survive in such an environment, but it's also populated by a certain type. Again, it's difficult to say too much about it without spoiling it. But the entities that populate that, which I call the digital gods, are very, very monstrous according to human standards and very Lovecraftian in nature.
Oh,
That's the best
okay.
I can do.
Yeah, I don't want you to give away spoilers. I appreciate you answering my question there. I want to kind of probe. Now, some of these questions that I ask are more meant to help any listeners to get an idea of what to expect and maybe a better understanding of your world to hopefully see if it's right for them.
The one thing I'll say, because that's interesting actually, the idea of mythos and mythology. In most cyberpunk novels or works, you usually, and I'm not saying that, I'm not stating a general fact because it might not be true, but generally speaking, cyberpunk is about the microcosm. It's about survival of the individual against a system, society, world hell-bent on crushing them. So we really manage the microcosm, like for example Bob Mitchell's in Dissociation Delirium. You don't have any idea of the broader Digital Gods and Fallen Angel universe when you read Dissociation Delirium. It's really the story of a 20 something analyst in a mega corporation who gets burned out, exploited, has a faulty implant in his head and basically just turns raving mad. That's the idea. So that's the microcosm. And that's usually what you read in classic cyberpunk. What I try to do here with DGFA is to bring this to almost a Lord of the Rings level. And by that, I mean create an entire mythology that sits somewhere below the surface that has a lot of influence on what the characters undergo as part of their multiple story arcs, which is mainly let's try and survive the next mission. But something's going on down there that really, really builds up to this mythology. And along the four books, you will get more and more scope, a wider range of issues that really gets you into this mythology. And I think that's something that hasn't been done that much before in this genre.
I haven't read enough cyberpunk myself to really give a fair assessment of that, but the good thing is that everybody's going to have something new. Every author is going to have their own take. You're bringing a lot of your past experience into something and creating a whole new world out of it. So I'm sure there isn't anything else like it, even if somebody else says, well, mine is kind of like this, mine is kind of like that. But truthfully, each of us as writers, we're putting ourselves into our work and it's going to make
That's true.
everything unique, versus these AI programs that pretend to write based on what's been fed into them from other writers.
Mm,
It can't imagine what it hasn't been fed. We have imaginations that could take us so many places, but AI, it's garbage in, garbage out, or
no,
whatever you
it's
put
true.
in coming out of it.
It's true. I mean, because of my background, obviously, I did a lot of trials and a lot of experiences with Gen AI just to make an informed decision, if
Mm-hmm.
nothing else. And I can say with 100% certainty that what LLMs produce today are heavily formulaic. They lack any kind of depth, at least when it comes to storytelling, style, narration, etc., etc. You can spot it almost straight away and it just goes nowhere. Now, it has a lot of value when it comes to analysis. Believe it or not, literary
Mm-hmm.
analysis is actually quite good. You can feed it a text and ask it for an analysis, and yeah, it's actually surprisingly good. But on the creative side, yeah, it's horrendous. It's
Yeah.
horrendous.
Well, we
Yeah,
know it got good at analysis because how many of us have gotten those scammer emails of somebody wanting to market our books and it's got this really great analysis in there. It seems like they might have read your book and it's coming from AI.
true. Mm, yeah,
And I use it too. And AI is a useful tool, but it's just a tool.
it's all it is. It's
Yeah.
all it is. At the end of the day, I'll tell you what. We live in a world where human connections are becoming increasingly difficult because of, let's say, polarization, because of tech, social media, etc., etc. We don't talk to each other so much in person, but through screens and accounts, etc. At the end of the day, what resonates, I think, is really the human element. So, especially in terms of storytelling, which is the bedrock of, I would say, a bedrock of societies, we all congregate around fireplace at some point to listen to someone tell a story. And these stories, the ones that have real weight, are the ones that are human stories written by a human for humans. That's the best slogan I could come up with. But at the end of the day, I really
Yeah.
believe in that.
No,
Mm,
I agree with that. And I think you'll get just about everybody agreeing with that, except the people trying to make an easy buck off of throwing
yeah.
something online.
Yeah. I mean, what's happening right now is that these guys create a lot of noise on the market, but
Mhm.
they will be flushed out at some point because even someone without literary background will realize that, I mean, the writing isn't worth a damn.
Yeah, it's
So,
it's not the same. And from my understanding, those that do use AI to help with their writing, they've pretty much got to rewrite it all anyway, and it's more or less
Yeah,
just kind
that's
of more
true.
of a prompting and help tool is what it becomes in the end.
I mean, it's a very touchy subject.
Hmm.
Again, because of polarization. I mean, listening to some people, you would still need to be using a quill. All right. I'll give you another analogy when it comes to music or images or videos. I mean, AI, Gen AI here is amazing. But at the end of the day, to me, it's really pre-production quality. So when you talk about music, for example, you have amazing models like Suno that create great music. It's really amazing. If you want to get into the industry, it's great for marketing purposes. It's great to give a look and feel for what you have in mind, but it should be pre-production. So again, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be something human made by humans for humans.
Yeah, that's
That's
kind of the nature of art in general, I think.
it is. It is. It is. And that's the real connection is.
Hmm. Yeah, art
That's
tends to touch something in us when there's something special about it. We know there's just it just clicks with us, to put it
I mean,
simply.
you mentioned my rockstar character and the fact that I compose a bit. Now, I have
Yeah,
no problem disclosing that the music pieces that I put on Patreon, for example, that are my rockstar songs, the versions that are put there are generated by Suno, but there is a huge aspect that needs to be taken into account is that the lyrics are part of the books, so I write them myself because they are part of the story. And the themes, the musical themes for the songs are actually come from me. I composed them. And most of the singing, so hopefully, the model transforms my voice into Angie Nightfire's voice. So a teenage girl, 20 something rebellious punk rock star. So it does an amazing job doing that. But the compositions come from me. And I can tell a huge difference, even though the compositions are the themes are very simple. I'm on the Nine Inch Nail, very minimal composition school, but yeah, it adds something to a result, to a Suno-generated song that would be quite generic in nature. I can tell the difference. And the people who listen to Angie's songs around me can tell the difference as well. Even if it's on a subconscious level, they can really tell. So again, basically, yeah, I have that. If the books manage to work out somehow, if I manage to build a community around that, if I manage to get sales, and if I push the project from the books to the actual transmedia project I have in mind, I want actual people playing, singing the songs, maybe even rewriting the themes themselves. I wouldn't mind. The lyrics are the ones that count. But at the end of the day, I would like a real band playing Angie Nightfire's songs. That's the
yeah,
idea. Mm.
that would be neat. So, did you actually compose the music yourself, or as we were talking about AI tools, did you have, do you have a musical background that you know
I
how to
do.
compose, or do you use this as a tool to kind of help you get those sounds together? And then
I
I don't
I
know how
I
that
have
works.
I started music when I was 6. It was one of the very lucky. I mean, I'm one of the very lucky fews I had the opportunity to learn the piano when I was 6. So I started with classical piano. And when I grew older and to the teenage rebellion phase, I ended up playing the electric guitar and the drums. And I got into hard rock and metal at some point, and it never really left me. So I'm still really a hard rock fan at heart, and I miss the 80s and 90s quite a lot. The first song I learned to play on the guitar was Enter Sandman from Metallica. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know. I'm a huge Van Halen fan, Metallica. I love the guitar heroes like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai. And it's really the kind of vibe that I also try and get in the books. And it's what inspired me in terms of compositions for Angie Nightfire, for example. When you listen to her, you will really get this hard rock, punkish vibe in her songs that are still. I think most people can still listen to them because they are not just, scream after scream after scream. There is cool melody. It's very hard rock and very rebellious, but yeah, it is manageable. And that's what I wanted. So all these years spent playing music led me to this particular moment where I could compose the basics for, yeah, for my own songs. And I mean, it's great. I just love this. Mm.
And you mentioned too that you were hoping that the tools you were using would change your voice. So did you sing those songs and then you have something that alters your voice to sound like a different character?
Suno, the latest Suno models enable you to record yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
it has an idea of the pitch and melody that you want, and then you ask it for a specific type of voice, and it changes your voice into what you want. It's an incredible tool. I mean, regardless of the controversies, etc., technically speaking, it just blows my mind. It's amazing. So I did that for a few songs, yes. For some others, I was very satisfied with what it gave me because really what mattered to me were the lyrics, because the lyrics are at the center of the story. I mean, just moving away a little bit from the music itself back to the lyrics, there is a poem that is written by one of the main characters, and this poem will be turned into a song by Angie Nightfire, which basically will make it famous. And this particular song will echo through all four books and get a different level of meaning each time you listen to it or you read about it. It's really at the center of it all. So yeah, it's really the lyrics that I'm mostly concerned about and enthusiastic about. Being able to add this immersion layer on top of the reading by creating those songs, I think it just adds something great. But I'm all about immersion anyway.
Yeah. And most of us don't have that kind of talent. We hear a song and it just seems to fit something in our books and we go, okay, that's good. But here you are writing all your own music for your books.
I try and retain as much art direction as possible. Exactly. Yeah, because I have this entire project in mind. I mean, we were talking before we started recording, we were talking about what I have behind me, which is this whole Cyberpunk 2077 video game memorabilia. It's this kind of immersion that we find in the video game where you walk in this huge city, you have all the city sounds, but also sounds, music, images, everything that promotes immersion as a player is something that I added in my role playing game sessions and that I wanted to try and transfer onto the page by adding, at the very least, these kind of songs. And I really think that it adds something. I really do. Mm.
Yeah. So if you did any audiobooks, you would you put that in there too?
Yeah, I plan to. When I get there, and it's not going to be just now, but when I get there, I have to work on the copyright issues regarding generated songs, which is why I would like to actually have a human band play it. I don't mind changing the themes themselves, but I want really something that can be owned from a copyright standpoint 100%. So there are questions, legal questions that are still very much, I would say, work in progress from an ownership copyright standpoint right now in this field. I need to see to understand better where the wind blows, when the various current lawsuits will be settled, and yeah, when the dust settles, basically, where are we in this field? And I'm not too sure yet. But the idea would be to absolutely include the songs in the audiobooks. Right now,
Mm.
what I did was to add an HTML hyperlink within the ebook for Dissociation Delirium to the actual NG Nightfire song on my Patreon. So when you read the book on Kindle, you can just click there, get to my Patreon, and listen to an extract of the song. And if you want to listen to it in its entirety, then it's in my shop. But yeah, I'm already trying to build up this transmedia part with the novellas themselves before the books actually come out. Mm.
Well, it sounds like a good plan to put that all together because I didn't realize there was quite so much going on with legal issues and copyright. I knew that you can't, as I understand, I should say, you can't copyright something an AI produces.
It's not as black and white. That's the
Yeah.
problem. When it comes to an image, for example, if you just generate an image with Midjourney, the image doesn't belong to you and you can't copyright it. But if you modify the generated image up to a certain point, and that's the certain point that it's still not clear, then
Hmm.
it becomes copyrightable. Now, look, I mean, look what's happening. Look at what's happening with the stock images, for example, for all those websites like Envato and whatever. I mean, you can use what's on those websites because there are stock images and you have a license to use them. But now they also use Gen AI models. So you can already license those particular images, but do you really own them? I don't think so. You have a license, but they are still available for sale. So things are moving very quickly, and I just don't know exactly what is going to happen, which is the part where you need an actual copyright lawyer to understand better
Yeah, I don't think
what's going on.
I know if the law can't keep up with this pace of change that we have going on. And
No,
we were talking
it's
before we
exponential.
recorded, and there's all these data centers that they want to put up. There's, just in my neck of the woods, there's one already going up in the eastern part of my state, and then there's talk about another one. I don't know what's going to happen, but AI is becoming so big. It's like the computing power of that is just enormous. And
Compute is going to be the next challenge for, I would say, the next 10 to 20, 30 years. I mean, the next stage has already been laid out by Musk, which is put a data centers in space.
I saw that
That's
too.
that's the next craziness, which in all its craziness makes perfect sense, actually. When you know a little bit about how these things work, putting data centers in space is great for heat generation, etc., etc. You
Mhm.
have one of the most perfect cooling environments. You either put them in space or under the sea, but ultimately space is better because you won't be polluting the sea. But yeah, I mean, that's where we're going. AI is going to be a matter of national security. It already is.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Everything will fall second to AI development.
What do
That's
you
it.
think? What do you think the biggest danger is as far as national security goes? Just the fact that it can
Um,
destroy files like it does, or you
Two
think it's going to be?
things: ownership and alignment. Ownership and alignment. So I don't know if you know what the term alignment exactly refers to, but it has to do with the smarter an AI model becomes, the closer it should align with what, let's call it, human values and priorities. So coming back to Asimov's law of robotics, for example, let's try not to kill too many humans. Let's try to basically make the AI work in favor of humanity and not turning into Skynet, stuff like that. Maybe not necessarily from a malign perspective, but really by accident. If you tell an AI to build a certain type of, ridiculous bureaucratic appliances and you don't tell it to stop for whatever reason, it will just keep building the same thing and regard everything that gets in this way as an obstacle and will remove the obstacle. It's the absurdity that is being used in terms of ethics and alignment protocols to try and keep the AIs at bay because they have no idea. So the
Mhm.
alignment is one thing, but it's really a question of ownership. Who owns the AI? So right now we have OpenAI with ChatGPT, which is being managed by Sam Altman. Now, I'm not going to go too much into details about Sam Altman. I think those who know have their own view of the guy. I don't want him to be the one who owns the most powerful AI in the world. It's that simple. And in my books, the problem is exactly there. In my books, in Digital Gods, the singularity, which is the moment where an AI becomes smarter than anything on the planet, is reached in the 2040s, but it's being reached within the R&D department of one of the most powerful mega corporations on the planet, which are really, I would say, evil at heart, mainly because they are just a mega corporation and their aim is just to, have everything. And because they are being the ASI, artificial superior intelligence, is being owned by a private corporation, it ends up basically just destroying the world balance. Because suddenly a private corporation has access to the most powerful cognitive tool imaginable. So it will just break balance on the monetary markets. Governments will fall, countries will go bankrupt, etc. And in my books, it ends turning into what I call the singularity war, which is the moment where governments decide to attack the corporation military. But because the corporation has an ASI, it has a superior capability, strategic capabilities. So it turns into a worldwide conflict. But that's, the way I extrapolate things. So ownership is critical
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
And the problem is you could have a good owner now, and who takes over after them, you
Exactly.
know? Yeah.
Exactly. So it's why Musk, for example, wants to keep control of SpaceX because he knows what he wants to do there, but he doesn't know what someone else would do if he were to step down. Ownership, control. So yeah, that's the idea. And it's the
Yeah.
part that's really scary.
Yeah, it is. Everyone's got their own imagination. And like you said, even back with Skynet and Terminator, I mean, that was imagined what, in the 80s? People
It
were
was
already,
imagined in a 1982 or 3, yeah, by Jim Cameron. One
yeah.
night when he was actually sick, he was having a fever dream and he imagined this cyborg rising from the fire, which is one of
Mhm.
the most iconic images at the end of the first movie. And
Mhm.
then he realized what this dream meant. And so he came up with Skynet, the concept of Skynet here as part of the first Terminator. Mm.
Yeah. Seems kind
Geek
of a,
culture.
yeah, geek culture. It seems like a terrible forewarning of what we could see if we aren't careful.
I would say the military part is, of course, scary, and we already have autonomous drones right now making autonomous kill decisions. This happened a few days ago. But it's really, my fear is on a wider scale. Like I said, it's really something that will give such an advantage to certain corporations slash governments that any kind of balance will be gone. And the problem is, you're in the US, I'm in Europe, or in Switzerland, which is unfortunately surrounded by Europe, but will benefit the country slash corporation that gets to AGI or ASI first. The rest will be left in the dust. And people in power understand that. That's why AI is today a matter of national security.
I can imagine it for myself, but it's nice to hear somebody else explain it who has a little bit more experience with this than perhaps I do. I mean, we're all exposed to some degree, but it sounds like you've got a little better background to explain that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I hope I'm wrong.
I hope so too. What if somebody, and I don't know if you explored this in your book, I was just thought popped into my head. What if somebody got in and hacked a system with AI and kind of reprogrammed it or something? I mean, is that possible? Somebody can who's not supposed to be in there could get in there, or maybe another AI
I
could
don't want
do.
to terrify you, but it's already happening. It's called prompt injection.
Oh,
You can already hack ChatGPT and make
really?
it say or do things that are not intended. It's already happening.
I have seen some of those conversations where
Mm.
people said, "Yeah, you gave it these instructions," and then it said something that wasn't a
So
typical response.
I don't have the documentation on me right now, and it would take forever. But yeah, just know that hackers are already using ChatGPT for hacking stuff, and they use one of the many techniques that they use is called prompt injection. So just think of it this way: if you go onto a website that has a ChatGPT API, meaning that the website is not OpenAI, but it offers, for whatever reason, the possibility to use OpenAI as part of its service. When you type a prompt on this website, there can be a man in the middle attack called the prompt injection, where your prompt will be modified or there will be additions to your prompt that will then feed ChatGPT with either a completely different or a modified version of your prompt. And in these, and this you don't see because it's not part of the layer that you have access to.
Mhm.
But that will mean that for some reason, if you ask it for the recipe for a cupcake or whatever, you might end up, for whatever reason, maybe, helping the hacking of another website or whatever somewhere else. I mean, we just have no idea. People have no idea. It's that
Yeah.
simple. Mm.
So you keep mentioning ChatGPT. What AIs do you think are most trustworthy at this time, at this point anyway?
Whoa.
Have you used a
Um,
bunch of different ones or
I'm I don't have the time. I have to write. I mean, I've been working on DGFA for the last 5 years. The four books right now, pre-editing, are 1 million word long. Each novella is between 10 and 20,000 word long. I have to edit the whole thing, translate it into French for the French market. I don't have the time to benchmark AIs. I just don't. But at the end of the day, I think they all have the same inherent problem, which is hallucination, because the models are not smart.
Mhm,
The AI has no idea what you're asking it. It's all a statistical model. So based on what you write, it will just fathom what the best, percentage or chance is for the next word in its answer, or your. That's all it does. It's
mhm.
purely statistical model, which is why I was saying that the certification that I have is actually based on the prior technology, which is 100% mathematics. That's all it is.
Wow.
And the LLMs make it sound smarter. And in some way they are, but at the end of the day, it has no idea what it's telling you. And that's why it hallucinates. So you can't
Yeah.
really take it at face value. It will tell you something completely wrong with the utmost confidence, but it has no idea. So
Right.
these models, they are dangerous because of that, because they are fundamentally unreliable, but they have no understanding of reality.
No,
Hmm.
exactly. Like you said, they're better for analysis than they are for actual creation.
Coming back to that, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Part of what made me think of hacking was you had said something of one of your books that Game, Game Over will tell the story of an incredible hack, heavy geek hacker stuff. And
Yeah,
I was kind of
true.
curious too, since we were talking about AI, but I was kind of curious how geeky that is. Are you going into the AI stuff? Or are you going into more like network stuff, the backdoors, the programming? Like what
Um,
kind of hacker type stuff? If you can say it
all
without
right.
feeling it's a
No, no,
spoiler.
no, no. That's super interesting. I'll tell you what. We have a saying. So I don't know how great it translates into English, but within computing and IT, we have a saying which is as follows: the problem lies between the screen and the chair,
Yeah,
which means
my
it's the
husband told
human.
me pep error.
There you go.
Problem exists
S-
between keyboard and chair. Yeah.
Exactly. It's the keyboard and the chair. That's exactly it. So, I mean, IT guys and people in computing, we're the same all over the world.
I
We
know
have
the
the same.
personality type.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We're all as depressed all over the world. Anyway, now, why am I saying this? Because at the end of the day, you can build the most secure architecture system imaginable. You will always have a moron somewhere who will just write their passcode, their password somewhere on a piece of paper and leave it on the desk.
Hmm.
That's it. So in Game Over, yes, there is a great hacking sequence because it introduces one of my main characters who is a hacker. She will be the main character for the books, and you get a sense, the beginning of her underground legend as a hacker in this particular short story. So it is quite technical, but, and I don't want to scare anyone away here, but you don't need to understand the tech lingo to appreciate the novel, because at the end of the day, it's a human vulnerability. And that's what makes it fun. That's really what makes it fun. Is that, again, the guy who gets hacked is a professional. He's very good at what he does, which makes him getting hacked just so, I would say, yeah, it's so satisfactory. That's what I liked when I wrote that. But yeah, I mean, it's very hard science. It's very, very much hard science. Because I know a thing or two about these things, I try to move away from most cyberpunk stories where hiking is just cool. and kind of magical. No, 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 no. Here you understand, or at least you're being walked through what happened. I think I mean, at least to me, it is interesting. So I guess your husband might like it actually.
I who knows. He's more into like Star Wars and BattleTech type stuff. He's more a mecha person.
Oh, I actually have mechas in the book. There you go.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Oh, there's
there's
something new.
1,000 1 million words. I mean, I have everything. Everything's in there.
Do I need
It's
to ask you for a list of what that everything all is, or
ah, it would be. I mean, okay, let's put it this way. Everything that people within pop culture have been watching since the 80s, there is a high probability that you will find something that resonates because it's what I was brought up with. It's what I grew up with. It's what I read. It's what I watched. It's what I loved. I don't know if you know of an anime cartoon called the Thundercats.
oh yeah.
I mean,
See, I'm actually 5 years older than you, so that was
okay,
my generation too.
so you would know. Well, I mean, I have my cyberpunk version of the Thundercats in the books. Cyborgs
Oh,
with feline traits.
interesting.
There you go. They are called the Pack, and they are led by a full transition cyborg who has the body of a werewolf with the head of a lion, but it's all cybernetic. And these guys are half crazy, obviously, and they act as a pack and half humans, half felines. And
Oh wow.
they're all completely mad. But at the end of the day, they are amazing to follow. And this is based off the damn Thundercats. There you go. And somehow it all makes sense because it's
Yeah,
cyberpunk, you know. And the
yeah.
world is crazy anyway. So I mean, they're not even the craziest part in there, but they're in there. They're
Sounds
great.
like it's quite a fun trip.
I mean, yeah, when you take a step back from the hard, dark, dystopian world, and you just take this step back, you take a deep breath, and you realize the enormity of it all. Yes, it's actually hilarious because it's just this current absurd world we live in dialed up to 11. That's what
Oh
it is.
boy. And you have how
Uh,
many books planned in this? Or actually, you said they're all written. They're just you're
so
waiting to get
yeah,
them out.
now that's the good news. For those out there who are in terror of going through what J.R.R. Martin is putting everyone within ice and fire, through, which is he will not
Hmm.
finish the damn books. I will not pull J.R.R. Martin on the people because I've already written everything. It's one huge story that is divided in 4 books because I had to stop and start somewhere, but it's the whole story. So everything is already written in first draft. I'm working on the second draft and editing of the first book as we speak. So it's getting there. I'm hoping to publish maybe end of this year, Q1 next year, maybe. I'm not sure 100%, but yeah, I'm getting there. So the whole story is finished. It's written. That's it. So if you start one, you will get to the end because it's there. That's it. And I chose that. I chose to work as a waterfall model because I didn't want to create inconsistencies or have regrets from one book to the next, saying, oh, I should have put these characters here. For example, my Thundercats characters, I give them a bigger role in book 4, for example, but I don't introduce them enough in book 1. So now I'm rewriting certain sections of book 1 to introduce them better, or some of them, the ones that survive or who will die. I don't know, no spoilers, but that's I think the main advantage of going at it the way I do. So it delays my go to market by years, obviously, because I had to write the whole thing and it took me forever. But now that I'm there, I can tell you exactly how things end for everyone. And it makes the ending also quite satisfactory because sometimes when you write very long stories, it's difficult to stick the landing. And that's why I
Hmm.
try to do here to have something that's really satisfactory, that runs deep, that makes people cry in relief, in sadness, in melancholy, whatever, after the huge, gigantic finish. But yeah, when you say goodbye to these characters, you know why, because you've been following them for all those books, and everything is consistent because I think thanks to, how I'm going at it. It's a huge endeavor.
So when can people expect all the books to be done then? You know how readers are, sometimes they want to wait till all the books are out. I mean, you can reassure them till you're blue in the face, but some
I
readers
know,
are just that way.
I know. And, I can't remember which author said that, but I love deadlines. I love the sound they make as they whoosh past. I just don't know. That's the thing about being indie is you have to struggle with the petty mundane stuff like, getting a job and actually spending your 9 to 5, making a living. So it's difficult to have an idea, but now that I've written everything, I find it rather fast to make the modifications to the current manuscript. So I'm hoping to, and again, I'm going to go all out Musk here, giving like aggressive timelines. I'm hoping to publish every 6 months.
Okay, that
But
seems reasonable.
I wouldn't
Wouldn't
sign
hold
this
your
on
feet to the
paper.
fire.
Yeah, exactly. I would not sign this on paper anywhere. It's
Yeah.
really, it's difficult to know.
You're not being too conservative with that timeline, but since it's all written, what do you have to go through with each book to make it ready for publication?
So that's really that's the editing process, especially since when I started, it was really the first time that I went through such an ambitious project. I think I made the typical mistake young authors do, which was over explaining. So it slowed the pacing quite a lot. And at some point, because you have to work on world building, it's still, you still have to find balance and not, come up with an encyclopedia. So I'm editing that and making it shorter, keeping everything that needs to be understood by the readers in terms of world building without slowing the pace. Because I have to think about the modern habits of reading, where you still need to keep going and not stop the action or the story for too long. So, conscious of that, conscious of, I would say, reader's comfort, I'm starting over, taking stuff away here and there, adding in other places. I think I'll come up with an extra book where I put all this stuff that we call the Bible. Generally, it's the Bible of our worlds. And I think I might actually make it another book to publish for those who are interested. Because I went very deep into the technical aspect of stuff. My metaverse is built on an extra layer of the current OSI network model. And I went deep into the technical details, but you don't need to know that unless you're into IT and networking stuff. But it's all there. So for people who are interested in the hard science aspect of the book, I think I'll make it available first on Patreon and then on another book. But so this needs to go. So I will go from 1 million words to maybe, I don't know, 700,000 or 800. I'm not sure yet. Right now, that's the main challenge, making really the books enjoyable, readable easily without taking away the real substance.
So the extra stuff is basically going to be all into a bonus material type
I think so.
file.
It will start on Patreon, and then when I get the time, yeah, I think I might actually put this in publishable format. Yeah. Mm.
For somebody who's a real fan of the extra material is kind of fun. Like before we had streaming and, we had these box sets of DVDs and,
Exactly.
they had all the
Mm.
bonus material in there. That's kind of fun.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm a fan of British space opera author called Peter F. Hamilton. And this guy is known for extremely long books. There is a trilogy of books called the Nightstone Trilogy, which is 3,600 paperback pages long. Give you an idea. And I love big books. And so he does incredible world building in his novels. And I know that all this material he used a lot, but he still had a lot that he couldn't put in there for exactly the same reason as what I'm doing right now. So he actually published another book called Guide to the Confederation, which is exactly that. It's just lore dump in publishable formats for those like me who are super interested in, how this particular star system is organized, what's the government structure, technological structure, what's the religious part, blah blah blah, etc., etc. And so he just did that, and I think it's cool because you have all this material that will sit there, and I mean, you might as well put it out there, I guess. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, if you're up to putting out something extra like that, go ahead. There's going to be fans that like that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's going to be part of the Patreon anyway. And I already have, for example, the chronology as part of my Patreon account. I have a few people who are already members who are already eating up, this kind of stuff because, yeah, they love world building. They are mostly role playing, gamers and role playing game players who love to know as much as they can about a specific universe. But yeah, I mean, that's the idea. And then they'll read
Yeah.
the other books later on, but that's going to take me years and years and years. I'm far from done.
And that's something that I wanted to touch on too was the role-playing games. I know that is like a huge source of world building, it seems like for a lot of fantasy writers, but I hadn't imagined it so much for something like cyberpunk. But
Oh,
do you,
all right. So you know what on that? Because it's actually all comes from a role-playing game.
uh-huh.
19 Someone within the comments on this video will, I'm sure, crucify me because I'm not going to check the exact date right now. So maybe I'm making a mistake by 1 or 2 years, and I'm sorry about that in advance. But I will say 1986. A guy named Mike Pondsmith in the US publishes a role playing game called Cyberpunk. And the guy creates an entire universe based on the Reagan years in the 80s in the US. A bit like me, thinks like, how could this all go to hell? And writes the whole thing as a warning, like, be careful, this is where we might end up. And so he publishes that, thinking he's going to sell a few thousand copies and be forgotten forever, and that's going to be it. And he ends up with a colossal success in terms of role playing game, right? In terms of scale, but
Mhm.
it's a colossal success. And it's going to span multiple years, multiple editions until it's picked up by CD Projekt Red and adapted into Cyberpunk 2077, the video game. It just tells you what the trajectory of this particular role playing game, Cyberpunk, and where it's ended up now. Like 40 to 50 million copies sold. And
Wow.
it's all part of the same universe and story. So it all started with an actual role playing game. Yeah.
And I guess I'm more familiar with the fantasy side, following so many authors that seem to talk about that with their fantasy writing. Not so much, like I said, on the
Mm,
cyberpunk side, but I know there's like role-playing games galore for just about everything, it seems like.
true.
Do you find that that actually helped you with your world building too? Because you had told me in advance that you were a big role player, obviously, like
Hmm.
your cyberpunk game. But do you think that influenced you with your world building? Not just, the interest in the cyberpunk, but just the
It
way
does.
role playing organizes stuff.
It's absolutely true. Now, it's actually the story of the genesis of the books. It all started when I played Cyberpunk 2077. I loved it and I thought, okay, I need to share what I felt with my close ones. So my wife is a huge gamer. She loves role playing. I put her plus two other friends around the table and I created a Cyberpunk Red, which is the name of the current edition of the Cyberpunk role playing game. I put them around the table and I created a 40 something scenario campaign, which took me like 6 months to write, set in the Cyberpunk Red license and universe. But I put my own story in there and I made them play through it. And what is interesting here, because we talk about alpha and beta readers, etc., I had alpha and beta players because the story you're reading in the books are actually derived from this role playing campaign. And I see how the players reacted to the emotional setup, payoffs, to the tragedies, to the action, etc., etc. They actually played it in real time. And I think that is a huge, huge advantage to have because you know from the get go if your story works or not, because you have real people living it in real time right now as you describe the events and what's happening. So, to cut a long story short, I thought, okay, I have something special there. I know it works. I want to make something out of it. So I contacted Telsorian Games, the publisher for the role playing game, saying, hey, do you license authors to actually come up with their own story so that we could make this a campaign within your world? They said, no, we don't do that. Okay. I went to CD Projekt Red saying the exact same thing. They said, yeah, sure, but it's going to cost you dozens of thousands in lawyer fees to just get in bed with us. But if you have something good and you have credentials, then yeah, I mean, why not? And I didn't have that kind of money at the time. I still don't.
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, what the hell? I'll just start over and create my own thing. So the themes and the story are there. It's just really my own universe from A to Z. But that's how it started. Mm,
Along with the rest of your background and interests, you just kind of put everything together then.
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting story. And I'll tell you what, one more thing. Speaking of fantasy, there is an Amazon animated series that I think does quite well, which is called The Legend of Vox Machina. This is actually, I think, a very interesting concept that goes into the same direction. Actually, they were there first, but I'm going in the same direction as they are. It's a bunch of US Los Angeles actors who are all crazy about Dungeons and Dragons. And these guys decided to film themselves during their role playing game sessions. And they created a huge community of fans around those sessions until the point where they sold the rights to their story to Amazon, which then adapted it in an animated format.
Oh, geez, that's how that came to be, huh?
Yeah, and I thought it, and I think it's brilliant because it works. It works. I mean, it's an ensemble cast, which is exactly the same for me in the GFA because you don't have just one main character. You have four main characters at the very least, maybe even five, but the four main characters are my actual players. The main character, the hacker girl, which was called, okay, spoiler alert, she's called RT. My wife was the one playing her. And most of the reactions of, Artie's reaction in the books are actually my wife's reaction within the role-playing game campaign. And that's what makes it, I think, even more believable and human and accessible, and it has value, it creates value because it's a lived-in story already. It's not just in my head, not anymore.
There's
So
an actual person that is that character.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I think it adds something. It really does. So that's how it came to be. Mm.
It's quite a story on your series. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
Now, the real thing about cyberpunk, people may not agree with me on this, but I have a thesis that says that we are already living in a cyberpunk world, minus the societal upheavals, the popular rebellions, and we are even getting there slowly but surely. But really, I think what's interesting about cyberpunk is that it started as a warning back, in Gibson's time, Sterling's time, Stevenson's time, the real pioneers from the 80s, Philip K. Dick, etc. And it's turned now into something which is not so much a dystopian future, it's very much current events in the way that tech is being used, the way corporations now have more and more power, the way that governments tend to take a step back, men they not completely fail, and people are being left behind, and people are struggling to keep up with the tech. There is a concept that Pont Smith brings as part of the backstory for cyberpunk, which is called the technoshock. Technoshock is simply when people within society, except the very lucky few who know and own the stuff. But the rest of us just can't keep up with technological advances anymore. You mentioned that earlier. We are on an exponential curve with innovation, etc. But people just can't catch up. They just have no
Yeah.
idea. And that's where the fabric of society falls, breaks, falls apart. And so we are getting I think, closer and closer to this particular aspect. We talked about AI at length, but AI is really, yeah, it's the nail in the coffin. I think what's interesting is that all these fears in issues, they resonate within this genre. And I think that's one of the main interests as well. The underlying structure, the underlying themes of the story is really this. And there is a lot of thought to be had about AI, especially the AI that's one of my characters, which is very, very, very special. I can talk a little bit about that, but the theme about my AI is that the question is as follows. Is AI capable of reaching sentience at some point? And if so, what kind of sentience would it reach? Would it be a human centric or human adjacent sentience? Is it going to be something completely alien? If human adjacent, is it capable of human feelings? Is it capable of love? And does it actually know exactly what love is? And could love motivate an AI's actions? And so ultimately, can an AI become human? And would it be more human than humans? And that's a theme that's been very much worked on by Blade Runner, for example. Replicants are more human than humans. But can an AI, which was just silicon based, at inception, could it actually become human? And what does it mean for the rest of humanity? So that's a theme that is central because it links back to our own consciousness as humans as well. What does it mean to be human in a hyper-tech world? And we are getting there. We are absolutely getting there. We are already, you and I, we are already augmented humans. Think about it. We use an LLM for, a lot of our day-to-day tasks, I would imagine.
Mhm.
We have access to instant knowledge anywhere, anytime. We have smartphones that we can do anything with these pieces of tech. And so that's pure human augmentation right there. And I'm not even talking about Musk's Neuralinks, chips in brains, etc., etc. That's the next logical step in technological evolution. But what does it make us as humans in terms of consciousness, empathy, relationships, etc., etc.? So how do those two paradigms work together? Do they collide? I mean, what's going to happen? And it's, you know what? I'll just conclude with this. It's the pitch for the 4 books, and it tells you what you need to know. Fate, love, and tragedy intertwine the destinies of a hacker, a rock star, and a sentient AI fallen from space in a fight for survival that would change the future of humanity forever. There you go. If you want to sum up 1 million words into one sentence, that's it. Fate, love, and tragedy.
It sounds like
Yeah.
you have a good handle on how to sum everything up. That's another issue that writers have. It's like, how do you sum up your book in just a little description, much less one sentence, which you just did?
It was 3 months' work. So I'll tell you that. It's horribly difficult
Yeah.
because you need to pinpoint the exact themes, and it's so difficult. It really is. I really hope I've managed to come up with something new, or if not new, something exciting. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see.
Well, it's uniquely you, so it's going to be
Yeah.
different than anything else out there.
True. True enough. Yeah.
And
So
that sounds
anyway, I guess that's it. So I have another novella coming up in 2 to 3 weeks. I need to start doing some serious marketing. The next novella is called No Future Tonight. It tells the story of 2 young punks who will have very bad nights trying to survive something that's really not cool, and they will face increasingly, I would say, hostile odds. It's one of those heart-wrenching stories that it's a tearjerker, but it's also incredibly powerful. So that's No Future Tonight. And then, yeah, there will be a few more. Game Over, we talked about it. Worst case scenario, this one is going to be fun. It's the story of a mercenary team who's having a very bad day because of Murphy's Law, when everything, starts going wrong and every decision you make to try and solve the current bad situation turns into an even worse situation. It's a team buddy story with a group of mercs who I think are just hilarious. But this one is a bit lighter. It's cool. And then there's a few more that the more you get into those novellas, the deeper you get into the DGFA universe, because each novella gives you a specific world building setup. One of them is about hacking, the other is about mercenaries, the one is about madness, the other is very social, societal. No Future is very, yeah, it's like how does the system basically crush you when you come from the gutter. That's very, very cyberpunk, definitely cyberpunk. So all these will be released, I would say, one every 2 months, and I will put everything in one main anthology where I will have one or two also extra novellas that won't be released as a standalone. So you will get maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 novellas in one book, and that should happen by the end of the year, beginning of next year. So yeah, there's a lot coming.
So how many books total then is going to be the series that you're working
Oof.
on?
I mean, the novellas are one thing. Really, I'm just, putting a foot in the door with one novella, which is roughly 15 to 20,000 words in length. Dissociation Delirium, I think, is 12,000 or something. So it's 57 pages in Kindle. It's not long. It's not meant to be long. So I wouldn't even count the novellas per se, but because you will get just one book, which will be 7 stories long, I would say 140,000 words, give or take. Then there's going to be the 4 main books that I might actually divide into 2 parts for, again, length concerns. And once those 4 books are done, then there is, well, the rest, because there are so many stories to tell. I'll be at it for the rest of my life, I think. But these ones are not written yet. So I mean, there are certain secondary characters that are super iconic in the GFA that will get their own series. And then there will be the next installment after those 4 books are finished. Then there will be another trilogy that takes the story into the future, etc. So there's a lot to think about. But right now, I'll concentrate on the novellas and the 4 main books.
Okay, so are the novellas side stories or are they all part of that main story? How do they tie into the novels?
That's a good question. All of them are standalones, except one, actually. So almost all of them are standalones. They are there to give you a glimpse into my world. They work really on, like I said, as a standalone. Like, for example, Dissociation Delirium can be read apart from everything else. It's a demented story about a burnout with a body count in the corporate workplace. It's, you can read it at face value and stop there. The others can be read as a standalone as well, but almost all of them feature at the very least one character, secondary or primary, from the novels. So you can start by the novellas. When you get to the books, you realize, hey, it's this character from this novella that I wrote. Or you can start with the books and find the novellas later on and think, oh, hey, cool, this character from the books that I loved, and it's actually this is her origin story, or this is how she became famous, or this is what prompted this particular character to act the way he does in the books. So there is a link, both thematically speaking and narratively speaking, between those stories and the main books. So everything is related, everything is networked.
You mentioned origin stories. Is that a lot of what they are? It's got some sort of like little hint of the origin of some of those characters in the main books.
One of them in particular,
Okay.
one of them, which is called Dream of Mars, tells the story. I'll just give you the pitch. It tells the story of a homicide detective who will get a missing persons case that will take him to the darkest bowels of Neo Los Angeles. And it's going to basically, I would say, break him in a way and turn him into what he becomes into the novels, which is a vigilante. So it's really a detective noir in the purest noir style of what Blade Runner, for example, gave us. You know, it's really the noir detective in the future. It really has this vibe set within my own universe. So you will meet this character, which is one of the main characters in the novel, plus a few more characters from the novel because he lives in this ecosystem the other characters also appear in. So it's really his origin story as far as the novel is concerned. Again, it promotes world building, it introduces you already to other characters in the novels. The other novellas, again, can really be read as a standalone. Some of these characters you will never meet again because they're just part of the novellas, but really the stories are self contained. I don't know if I'm being clear, but
Oh, you're being
ev-
clear. Yeah,
okay,
I
all right.
understand. Yeah, so basically it's like a fun add-on to your main story.
Exactly. They are really
Okay.
well building add ons with very, very intense and cool stories. Again, Dissociation Delirium is I don't know. It's difficult to describe it, but the people who read it all told me the same thing, which was like, what the hell did I just read? A, B, I'm really working too much. I need to lay down. I need to lay off a bit. There are satire, there are glimpses into the way my mind works. They're really cool. They're worth a shot. Yeah. Mm.
Well, from what we discussed early on and then this, I can tell your mind works. You see like a huge picture and you're taking it in pieces and really giving different
Yeah.
separate segments of it to people to build that whole picture as you see it in your head.
I'm
Am I right?
actually building an IP. If you want to
Yes.
sum it up, it's a universe, but it's also an IP. It's the way my mind operates. Maybe that's the project manager in me with some business, with some business knowledge here and there, but it's really, really a huge IP that I'm building. Hence the transmedia paradigm, hence, yeah, the different platforms, etc. It's hugely ambitious and it's completely insane because I'm alone. But I don't know. I don't know how to do things differently.
I can see in this too what you're building where your gaming actually comes in because
Hmm.
those role-playing games have so many rules and different ways of putting things together, within that whole system. So it's very much similar to that.
And DGFA feels like I really kept the role-playing game feeling in the writing. You have a group of characters who will do stuff based on what's being thrown at them, which is also what you get in Cyberpunk Edge Runner, which is an anime derived from 2077. It's also a group of characters with synergies within the group. And I thought this multi POV narrative is actually more fun than just a singular character. But not going back into that, it's really, yeah, this role playing game approach that gives it this particular energy and pacing. But it also why it adds to the length because you don't just have one narrative arc to go through. You have all those characters that will evolve in parallel or with each other, against each other. Their paths will collide, etc., etc. So, and you need to really work on each of them separately and with equal care because people will love the Hacker Sisters, or I think most people hopefully will love the Rockstar because Angie, I think she's amazing and she's super iconic. But then maybe people will like the Mad Max type character or the detective or the crazy cyberdog with his big crazy eyes who's completely demented and deranged, but super fun to read. So there's something for everyone, but you need
Mhm.
to respect all those characters and bring them to their respective ends. So it just It's very character centric, but again, it's the human part I think that prevails and that will be of interest. Not the tech, it's the people, it's the human
Yeah.
part. And so, yeah, that's why it takes 4 books and 1 million word in draft one to get there. Uh, so,
Well,
so
and I
yeah,
had one more question about that. So are those four books of your main story, are they self-contained four books, or are they all part of one big book, or are they part of one big book
it's
but yet self-contained stories?
you could put the whole story in one book. The novellas are self-contained, the novels are not.
Okay.
That's so yeah, when you start book one, you get to the end to book four, and it's one big journey. But yeah, this is not self-contained at all.
With that, I can really see why you wanted to complete the whole thing before you published it.
Yeah. That was the reason behind the waterfall approach. Is really it was really a question of getting everything done because you have the general idea where you want to go, and then during the writing, for obvious consistency, narrative issues, etc., you end up modifying stuff, and you can't afford to do that when once one book is finished and that's it. So in order to have the highest quality possible and telling the best story possible, I think in this case the waterfall approach is the best. But again,
Hmm.
like I said, I mean, it took me 5 years to get there. It's colossal
Wow.
work.
I can about imagine. It sounds like it's been a lot of work. Well, and you're a busy guy too, so I can't imagine how you found the time around what you do to put all this together.
I don't sleep that much. I don't sleep that much. Yeah. I mean, you have to make time at some point. So that's it.
Does your wife ever
So
say just get to bed?
she works a lot too. So I make the most of that.
Yeah. You get the quiet time to work on your world
But
building and your
but
stories.
I'll tell you what, and I can conclude my part on that stuff is that I wrote this for her. For one reason is that she loves it when I read something to her before we sleep, before we go to sleep. So because I don't know, she likes the way I read. So for more than 15 years now, I've been, taking the books that I read when I was younger that I liked, and I would just read it out loud for her, and she loves it. So it was also one of the main reasons why I decided to get myself into this insane project. It was for the pleasure of reading to her the chapter that I had just finished writing. So she's my very first alpha reader after being my alpha player. But yeah, the story, I wrote it for her at the very, very
Okay.
beginning.
You're a total
Yeah.
romantic, you know that.
Ah, again, it's down to the human. I mean, cyberpunk is all about, cool tech, neon lights, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the point. That's empty.
Hmm.
My story is about love. It's everything that happens is because of love. And it's what makes it even more powerful in a setup that is so dark. I mean, one of my most mysterious characters says something like this. It's in the most pitch black of darkness that the faintest light of hope shines brightest. Forgive me, maybe I have messed up the beginning,
You
but
got the general gist of it.
you get the gist of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, and and it's what had struck me in 2077. It was the human element, not the gameplay mechanics, not the cool cars. I didn't give a
Uh-huh.
damn about that. It was the story and the human elements. And it's because in this world, it's love that brings these characters together. It's love that creates the tragedies that happen within the story. But it's love that make them survive. Well, those that survive, it's the love that really takes them all the way to the end. And I think there is no better message, especially today. So, yeah, call me a romantic, but that's true. But ultimately, I think that's what really resonates.
Yeah.
So I'm going with it. Mm.
That's awesome.
But you'll
That's
see in No Future Tonight, it's actually love, again, that's at the center of the short story. And that's what makes it so heartbreaking. And I think that's what makes it work. So hopefully, when I get to publishing, hopefully you'll get to read it and you can tell me.
hopefully by the time you have it out, I have a lot more people coming to the site, so you get a little more attention on that than you might otherwise.
The more the better. It's the really tricky part when you're starting, when you're beginning, is the visibility.
Yeah. Well,
And
even
I'm
when
not
you've
in,
been around, it's
yeah,
visibility.
that's true. And you know, whether you're indie or trad published, I mean, these days, so many trad published authors have no marketing whatsoever, so they have the
Mm-mm.
same visibility problems anyway. So it's
And
all
less
it's a
rights
whole
for their work.
yeah, and less royalties exactly. So that's why I don't even understand people, you know, hurrying, running around trying to get agents and publish blah blah blah. But don't
Mm,
waste your time. Just write
yeah.
your story, put it out
You could
there,
go
and do the
years and,
work.
and never see anything.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
If something like that happens further down the road, maybe why not? I don't know. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna wait for anyone. I just do it. So yeah.
Well, that's excellent.
So anyway,
I think,
that's my last word. Love. There
yeah,
you go.
perfect. And I think that's a great place to end too. I really appreciate the time you took to chat with me, Phil.
Thank you so much. It was great.
I really enjoyed hearing everything about your stories. I mean, I always am so amazed by the depth that other authors are willing to share. And I really hope that readers take something away that makes them go, maybe I should check this out. I wish you well. I'll make sure all the links are in the description, and the book is on the website, and that will be in the description too. So if anybody wants to check it out, make sure you click on over and find his book and purchase it.
Oh, that would be great.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you again so much. All
Yeah.
right.